A very good morning, students. Today I am going to start a new lesson, fire, friend, and foe. So, first of all, let's understand the meaning of the word foe. Foe means enemy. So, as the title states, that in this lesson we are going to know a little bit more about the fire. How fire acts as a friend at different times, and how the same fire can act as a foe. Okay, because fire has various forms. It can be very helpful for various purposes like cooking, etc. On the other hand, it can also bring destruction. So, when the human beings make good use of it and can control it, it's a friend. And when the human beings are damaged, or you can say harmed by fire, then it's a foe. Let's begin the lesson. Fire is both useful and dangerous. What is fire? How did we discover it? How do we control it? So, these are the questions which are going to be answered in this lesson. Early man didn't know what fire was, but he must have seen the damage it could cause. He must have watched lightning and volcanoes long before he began to use fire himself. So, students, all of you must be aware, if you have read the history lessons carefully, that early humans discovered fire. Okay, and he must have watched lightning and volcanoes long before he began to use fire himself. Fire was powerful and dangerous, and he was frightened. Fire may have puzzled early men, but we know that fire is the result of a chemical reaction. Now, we know that when the oxygen in the air combines with carbon and hydrogen in a fuel, a chemical reaction takes place and fire is caused. But early humans were unaware of this fact. We have progressed so much, and now we know what causes fire. Energy in the form of heat and light is released in this process. This is what we call fire. Let me read it once again. When the oxygen in the air combines with carbon and hydrogen in a fuel, a chemical reaction takes place. Energy in the form of heat and light is released in this process. This is what we call fire. So, these are the three elements: oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen, which are important to ignite a fire. Three things are needed to make fire: fuel, oxygen, and heat. Wood, coal, cooking gas, and petrol are some examples of fuel. Oxygen comes from the air. That is why when you blow on smoldering paper, it often bursts into flame. Smoldering means to burn slowly without a flame. So, when we blow on a paper which is burning without flame, it bursts into flame. The third thing needed to make fire is heat. Fuel and oxygen do not make fire by themselves, or else a newspaper or a stick lying in the open would catch fire on its own. So, only the presence of oxygen or fuel does not cause fire. Otherwise, suppose newspaper is lying and oxygen is also there, fuel is also there. Okay, so they will start burning on their own, but it does not happen like this. We have to heat the paper or any other substance if we want to ignite a fire. To burn a piece of paper or wood, we heat it before it catches fire. We generally do it with a lighted match. Every fuel has a particular temperature at which it begins to burn. The temperature is called the flash point or kindling temperature of the fuel. So, every fuel has different chemical properties and they have different temperature at which they begin to burn. That temperature at which they begin to burn is called the flash point or kindling temperature of the fuel. It is sometimes said that fire is a good servant but a bad master. This is very important. Fire is a good servant as long as we can control fire. Okay. it is helpful to us. But on the other hand, if we are not able to control it, then it can also cause great destruction. It only means that fire is very useful as long as it is kept under control. For instance, we use it to cook our food, warm our homes in winter, and to generate electricity. But on the other hand, if fire gets out of control, it can be very dangerous. Each year, thousands of homes and shops are damaged by fire. Vast areas of forest are also destroyed, and hundreds of people are killed or injured. Few months ago, there were fires in the Australian forest. If you are aware, then this was the great example of how fire can cause destruction, how it can be very disastrous for us. Just as three things are needed to start a fire, there are three main ways in which a fire can be put out. What are the three ways? We are going to read. In each, one of the three things needed for burning is taken away. So, students, we know the three things which are needed to ignite a fire. So, if we cut the supply of any one thing needed for fire, the fire will automatically be put out. For example, we can take away the fuel. If the fire has no fuel to feed on, no burning can take place. We often let a fire die out simply by not adding more fuel to it. Suppose you burn few newspapers, okay, and then you stop adding newspaper to that pile. The fire will automatically be put out because you cut the supply of the fuel. The second way of putting out a fire is to prevent oxygen from reaching it. Oxygen is also very important. So if we cut the supply of oxygen, then also fire will be extinguished. No supply of oxygen means no fire. Small fires can be put out or smothered with a damp blanket or a sack. This stops oxygen reaching the burning material. Sometimes carbon dioxide is used to extinguish fire. It does not allow oxygen to reach the burning material. So we can also smother the fire by cutting the supply of the oxygen. Smothered means we can suffocate the fire. So here when the air will not be there, when the oxygen will not be there, fire will automatically be extinguished. The third way of putting out a fire is to remove the heat. If the temperature can be brought down below the flash point, the fuel stops burning. Means if the temperature can be brought down below the kindling point, okay, the fuel stops burning. You blow on a burning matchstick or a candle to put it out. In doing so, you remove the hot air around the flame, bringing down its temperature below the flash point, and the candle goes out. So the third way is to remove the heat. Sometimes water is sprayed on a fire. It absorbs heat from the burning fuel and lowers the temperature. So students, sometimes water is also used to extinguish a fire, but it is not advisable to use water to put out each kind of fire because sometimes it can backfire also. The blanket of water also cuts off the supply of oxygen and the fire is extinguished. Some fires cannot be put out with water. This is what I was talking about. If water is sprayed onto an oil fire, means a fire which is having oil as a fuel, the oil will float to the top of the water and continue to burn. This can be very dangerous because water can flow quickly, carrying the burning oil with it and spreading the fire. Suppose there is oil and it has caught the fire and you spray water on it. Oil is lighter than water. It will come on the top and water will, keep flowing along with the burning oil. So it will be very harmful. It can cause destruction. So it is not advisable to use water for an oil fire. Water should also not be used on fires caused by electrical appliances. The person spraying water might receive an electric shock and be killed. A carbon dioxide extinguisher is the best thing to fight an electrical fire. That's why there are fire extinguishers installed in all the buildings, school premises, campuses, hotels, restaurants, because carbon dioxide extinguisher is the best thing to fight an electrical fire. We spend millions of rupees each year in fighting fires, and we spend more trying to find new ways of preventing fires from happening and getting out of control. On the whole, we have learned rather well to control fire and put it to good use in our everyday life. So, we keep on learning more about fire, the ways of preventing fires from happening and from getting out of control. Long ago, there were no firemen. When fire broke out, everybody became a firefighter. So, these are the times when there were no firemen. We were not having proper technology to extinguish a fire. We were not having proper knowledge. So, what used to happen at that time? People formed human chains, they still do if required, means it is also prevalent nowadays, and passed buckets of water from a well or a pond to the blaze. So, people they used to form human chains, means they used to hold each other's hand and they used to pass buckets of water from a well or a pond to the blaze, to the fire. Now there are laws about building construction which ensure that space is left between buildings to reduce the fire risk. Every new building, especially a public place, must ensure observance of fire prevention norms. So now the authorities take proper care of it, and there are strict laws about this fire prevention norms. And suppose there is a school or there is a hotel, then they have to follow these guidelines strictly, otherwise there is a penalty also, or their license also gets cancelled. Bands of firefighting workers with special equipment known as fire brigades are there to put out fires. Firefighters are highly trained people. They possess many skills. They cut off electricity supply, knock down dangerous walls, spray water and other materials to bring fire under control. So, students, a fire brigade is there, and the firefighters are equipped to fight any kind of fire. So, it is always advisable to call a fire brigade if there is fire at any place. They are also trained in first aid so that they can help people suffering from burns or from the effects of smoke. The discovery of fire and its uses helped early man to cope with nature better and gradually adopt a settled mode of life. Fire was a great discovery as it changed the course of life of human beings. Fire is still worshipped in many parts of the world. We also worship fire. We call it Agni Devta. Fire is indeed a friend, but as we know, it can be dangerous enemy once it gets out of control. So this was your lesson, fire, friend and foe. If you have any doubt in this lesson, you can ask. Thank you.